It is Friday, June 19. Welcome to CGN News. A senior official of the main opposition People's Progressive Party, Civic, in Guyana, dismissed what is called a nuisance value litigation, an injunction sought by a citizen to prevent the Guyana Elections Commission's GECOM from declaring the results of the disputed March 2 regional and general elections. Former Attorney General and party executive member Anil Nandlal said the injunction being sought by Eslyn David has absolutely no prospects of success. The Election Commission is due to announce the results later today after its chair, retired Justice Claudette Singh, receives a report from Chief Elections Officer Keith Lowenfield. This will pave the way for what political observers say will be the formal announcement of the elections, which the Progressive Party said that it won based on the national recount of votes that ended on June 9. The ruling coalition, a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, has said that the poll was filled with irregularities and wants it annulled. The Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, CHTA, is calling for one of the world's largest leisure travel and tourism companies, TUI Group Touristic Union International, to reimburse Caribbean hotels and resorts for services received. Last April, CHTA appealed for a response from tour operators which had failed to reimburse hotels for first quarter stays by travelers who had made their payments to them well in advance of their travel. CHTA's CEO, Frank Comito, said most tour operators honored their obligations, but the TUI has not responded to calls to make payment since April 2019. In a letter to Andrew Flintham, Managing Director of TUI's United Kingdom and Ireland operations, Comito said he wanted the company to join its competitors in settling debts to Caribbean hotels whose survival is under threat. The CHTA chief executive also described efforts by TUI to advance amendments to payment terms for future contracts, which are even more onerous for hoteliers and would be tied to receiving the Q1 payments that are contractually owed, as unreasonable and untenable. By failing to pay, TUI appears to be in breach of existing contractual obligations, Comito said, noting that these distressed hotels have been long-standing loyal partners, directly contributing to the build of TUI's Caribbean book of business. Grenada has recorded more than 1,000 small earthquakes at the underwater volcano Kikim-Jenny last week, and this has caused the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA, to issue an advisory reminding marine traffic and communities within proximity about the buildup of activity. Located between Carriacou and Grenada, the submarine volcano has been on yellow code for years, but sporadically will become more than active. NDMA Communications Officer Oslin Crosby reported that during April and May there were only 29 earthquakes with a magnitude between 1.6 and 2.0, but for the period June 5 to 12 there were 1,384 earthquakes with a magnitude as high as 1.8, a significant amount for that short period. Barbados is working towards introducing a national digital identification which could be rolled out over the next 6 months. Prime Minister Mia Mottley made the disclosure this week as she spoke about the burgeoning delivery economy in Barbados, which has emerged significantly from the COVID-19 pandemic. Mottley said for decades the supermarkets and banks were trying to implement a delivery system without success. Now the need for contactless commerce has emerged and business owners are exploiting the system. The Prime Minister further went on to say that the delivery of pension checks from Social Security Agency will be a thing of the past. Welfare and child maintenance benefits will ultimately be loaded on a national digital ID card. The Prime Minister also expressed the view that the region must protect the health of its citizens and its visitors in this COVID-19 environment. She stated the region must exploit its good track record in public health during this crisis, noting that over the years the region had produced public health giants who made a difference regionally and globally. Overseas now, China has become one of Africa's largest creditors in recent years, lending hundreds of billions of dollars to governments to build roads, railways, and ports. Now it's promising to write off a small part of that debt as countries on the continent battle the COVID-19 pandemic. China will exempt certain African countries from interest-free loans due by the end of this year, President Xi Jinping said late last Wednesday. Xi did not say which African countries would be exempt or how much debt would be erased outright. By independent estimates, African countries are substantially indebted to China. Chinese lenders signed $152 billion worth of loans to African countries from 2000 to 2018, according to a separate report published by the China-Africa Research Initiative, a research program at Johns Hopkins University's School of Advanced International Studies. The Chinese leader also promised that his country would offer, quote, greater support, end quote, to African countries that have been hit hardest by the virus or are under financial stress. He suggested that China could give countries more time to repay their debts, for example. Thousands of health workers have held a strike in public hospitals across Tunisia, demanding improvements in the health system in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Doctors, nurses, and technicians gathered outside the health ministry in the capital, Tunis, to call for better working conditions as they continue to tackle the outbreak. Tunisia has suffered a relatively low level of infections that have resulted in 50 deaths. This week, it lifted most of the restrictions put in place to combat the spread of the virus. Human rights campaigner Malala Yousafzai has graduated from Oxford. The 22-year-old, who survived a shot to the head by Taliban soldiers, studied politics, philosophy, and economics at Lady Margaret Hall. Miss Yousafzai was attacked for saying girls should be allowed to stay in education. She was shot in the head, neck, and shoulder while traveling home from school after writing an anonymous diary about life under the extremists. After recovering from her near-fatal injuries, she and her family relocated to Birmingham. In 2014, she became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17. 3 years later, she accepted a place to study at Oxford. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.